Hello, and today's learning target is I can solve and graph two-step inequalities. Let's look at filling in the first blanks of the statement. When multiplying or dividing by a negative, we have to flip the inequality sign. So, when multiplying or dividing by a negative, we must flip the inequality. So that's a rule that we already know, but just to remind you, when multiplying or dividing by a negative, we have to flip the inequality. Let's look at a few examples. Solve and graph the following inequalities. 6a plus 15 is greater than or equal to negative 27. So I'm going to solve this inequality for a by first subtracting 15. So 6a is greater than or equal to negative 42. I'll divide by 6 to isolate a and get a is greater than or equal to negative 7. Now we didn't have to flip the inequality because we did not multiply or divide by a negative. So let's make our graph. Remember, we put our solution in the middle, and then two numbers that are larger than that value and two numbers that are smaller than that value on our number line. And then we have greater than or equal to, so it's a filled in circle shading to the right. So solving a two-step inequality is just like solving, a two-step equation, but we simply have an inequality symbol now, and then we also must graph. Let's look at number 2, or the second problem. 6p plus 22 is less than 10. I'll go ahead and solve for my variable, and I'll subtract 22 and get 6p is less than 10 minus 22 is negative 12. Then I'll divide by 6 and get p is less than negative 2. I'll go ahead and graph this solution on the number line. Negative 2, negative 1, 0, and then negative 3, and negative 4. And then an open circle at negative 2, and then everything less than negative 2, so this would shade to the left. Okay, let's move along. 3 is greater than v divided by 3 plus 8. So again, I'll isolate my variable, and I'll first subtract 8 on both sides. And 3 minus 8 is negative 5, is greater than v divided by 3. Now to undo a division problem, I have to use multiplication. So I'll multiply by 3 on both sides. And I get negative 15 is greater than v. Now it's proper to write our variable first. So if I flip these two items or terms around, I get v is less than negative 15. So got to still make sure your sign's pointing the correct way, but you simply flip the variable and the number. And then if we graph this, 15, 16, 17, 14, and 13. And then we have an open circle at 15 and everything. Oh, it's negative. I didn't do that right. Let's erase and make that again. Okay. And now I need to switch colors. Okay. So negative 15, negative 16, negative 17, 14, and 13. And then we have an open circle at negative 15 shading to the left because everything less than that. Okay, let's look at the final example on this page. And I'll solve for h, and I'll subtract 20. So we get negative 7h is less than or equal to negative 28. And now we'll isolate h and divide by a negative 7. So remember, when we divide by a negative, we have to flip the inequality symbol. So we really get h is greater than or equal to 4. Make my graph appropriately. And close circle at 4, and then I'll shade everything to the right because we want everything greater than 4. Okay, let's look at two more examples of two-step inequalities, and then we'll look at a few word problems. So as we look at this first example, I'm going to isolate s by first adding 5 and get s divided by negative 4 is less than 6. And then to undo a division of negative 4, we'll multiply by negative 4. And since we're multiplying by a negative, we must flip the inequality symbol. So s is greater than negative 24. We'll go ahead and skip these graphs on this side, just because we've had practice on the last page with the examples, so we don't have to graph this. Feel free, though, to graph this in your notes if you want. Okay, and then the last example here. First, we have to combine like terms before we can solve this inequality. So 4g minus 5g is negative 1g is greater than or equal to 8, but we can't have, we want to isolate g, so we need to get rid of that negative 1 and divide by a negative 1. When we divide by a negative, we flip the inequality. So 8 divided by a negative 1 is negative 8. And that's our final answer. G is less than or equal to negative 8. Now let's take a look at a few word problems. Zane is registering for different events at the rodeo. The registration fee is $5 plus an additional $2 per event. Sorry, this isn't straight. Per event Zane registers for. How many events can Zane register for if he only can spend $25? So he has to pay $5 just to register, and then an additional $2 per event. We don't know how much he's registering for, right? How many events? So we'll call that X. I should probably just color code all of this, right? Keep it all different colors. How many events? We'll call X equals the number of events Zane can register for. And then he can only spend at most $25. So can't go over 25, but can be less than 25 or be exactly 25. So if we set this up, we can say 2 times every event Zane registers for, which is X, plus the $5 registration fee has got to be less than or equal to 25. So 25 is at most he can spend. And now we'll solve by subtracting 5. 2x is less than or equal to 20. So Zane can be in up to 10 events and then still have enough money for the $5 registration fee and then all 10 events in this rodeo. Okay, let's move on to the other word problem. Sid wants to Instagram at least 250 pictures this month. That is a lot of pictures. She has already sent out 70 pictures this month. If there are 20 more days in the month, at least how many should she post each day? So we'll call, she wants at least 250 pictures. She's already sent out 70 pictures. There are 20 more days. And let's call P the number of pictures per day that she needs to take. Number of pictures per day. So what this will be 20 days times P, the amount of pictures she'll need to take per day, plus the 70 that she's already taken. And make that look better. Needs to be at least 250. So 250 is the least amount that she wants to post because she wants at least. So now if we solve this for P, subtract 70, 20P is greater than or equal to 180, divide by 20. So P is greater than or equal to 9. So that means she must post at least 9 pictures per day, at least 9 pictures per day for the rest of the 20 days of the month. Thanks for listening. Have a great day. Bye-bye.